Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 16th chapter, the divine and demonic natures, text number 21 and 22. Page 676. Okay, so first we'll read text number 21 and together Sanskrit, and then I will read the translation and purport, and then text 22 also. Trividham narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmana kama krodas tatha lobhas tasmat etat trayam tyajet. Trividham narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmanaha kama krodas tatha lobhas tasmadetam trayam tyajet. Trividham narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmanaha kama krodas tatha lobhas tasmadetam trayam tyajet. Trividham narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmanaha kama krodas tatha lobhas tasmadetat trayam tyajet. Trividham narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmanaha kama krodas tatha lobhas Trividham, of three kinds, narakasyam, of hell, idam, this, dvaram, gate, nashanam, destructive, atmana, of the self, kama, lust, krodha, anger, tatha, as well as, lobha, greed, tasmat, therefore, etat, these, trayam, three, tyajet, one must give up. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger and greed. Every sane man should give them up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Purport. The beginning of demonic life is described herein. One tries to satisfy his lust, and when he cannot, anger and greed arise. A sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demonic life must try to give up these three enemies, which can kill the self to such an extent that there will be no possibility of liberation from this material entanglement. Text 22. Etair vimukta kaunteya tamodvarais tribir naraha acharyatmana shreyas tato yati param gadim. Translation. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, or son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination, purport. One should be very careful of these three enemies to human life: lust, anger and greed. The more a person is freed from lust, anger, greed, the more his existence becomes pure. Then he can follow the rules and regulations enjoined in the Vedic literature. By following the regulative principles of human life, one gradually raises himself to the platform of spiritual realization. If one is so fortunate by such practice to rise to the platform of Krishna consciousness, then success is guaranteed for him. In the Vedic literature, the ways of action and reaction are prescribed to enable one to come into the stage of purification. The whole method is based on giving up lust, greed and anger. By cultivating knowledge of this process, one can be elevated to the highest position of self-realization. This self-realization is perfected in devotional service. In that devotional service, the liberation of the conditioned soul is guaranteed. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, there are instituted the four orders of life and the four status of life, called the caste system and the spiritual order system. There are different rules and regulations for different castes or divisions of society. And if a person is able to follow them, he will be automatically raised to the highest platform of spiritual realization. Then he can have liberation without a doubt. Om Agyanat Nibandasya Gyananjana Sadakaya Chaksurum Militam Yanam Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhastam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sabadantigam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Uta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shirupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savarutam Parjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Siradha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshari Prijamano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivadari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Krishna here is explaining to Arjuna in this chapter about the divine and demoniac natures, and so in this verses here specifically is explaining about the persons who are not able to be engaged in devotional service, and then so they are under the influence of lust, anger and greed. And so Krishna is explaining that if one is not able to give this up, then he will definitely be degraded. So it is explained that these are the gates to hell. Narakasyedam. Naraklok. So 14 planetary systems are there in the universe. So we are on the earthly planet, and then there are the higher planetary systems. Bhurbhuva, Svaha, Janalok, Tapalok, Satyalok, Brahmalok. And so where the living entities who are more elevated are residing. And then the persons who are sinful, they will go to hell. The hellish planets below this planet Earth, Atal, Vital, Patalok, Sutalok, as explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 5th canto. But not only these different planets are there, but even on this planet Earth, if one is actually not able to control this lust, anger and greed, then he is actually practically also living in a hellish condition. So therefore, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, Tasmad, therefore, etat trayam tyajet. These three, trayam, tyajet, they should be given up. Kama, krodh, and lobh. So, kam, lust, krodh, anger, and lobh, greed, so they have to be given up. So every intelligent person, he will try to give them up. Although in conditioned life it is not easy due to the contact of the living entity with three modes of material nature. So, and even Krishna is explaining in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that even the yogi sometimes, although he tries to be properly situated on the transcendental platform, but still, if he is not perfect yet, then due to being in contact with material modes of nature, then sometimes he may be transcendentally situated and sometimes under the influence of the mode of goodness and then mode of passion and ignorance. And so even the yogi then is simply tolerating this condition, especially the lower modes of material nature, Raja and Tamagun, the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. So, if one is very lusty, angry or greedy, that is a sign of the lower modes of passion and ignorance. But a person who is in mode of goodness, so he knows that actually in life we have to try to elevate ourselves more and more and ultimately come to the transcendental position. So we try to control the mind and the senses, and he tries to be properly situated in Krishna consciousness, and then he tries to give up lust, anger and greed. And so even Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, he has explained in the Upadeshamrita, the nectar of the instructions, that Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jiva vegam, udaparasta vegam, etanna vegam nitavisha. Dirastata Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jiva vegam, udaparasta vegam. So this Vacho vegam, the urge to speak, so that has to be controlled. Manasa, the mind, krodh, and the force of the anger and the actions of the mind. And the jiva, the tongue, has to be controlled. The belly and the genitals, so all the senses have to be controlled. And if one is able to do that, then is known as Goswami. Go means the senses and Swami means the controller. And then, Rupa Goswami is explaining, then he may make disciples, then he is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So it is not easy to control the mind and the senses, but we have to endeavor to the best of our ability, and we have to pray to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga and Krishna, so that we may be able to be successful. And this right from the beginning stage as a sadhaka, one who is practicing, be a bhakta, who is performing devotional service, doing bhakti yoga, or those who are doing Ashtanga yoga, the process of meditation, and then of 8 limbs are there. Also there, this one has to sit properly and control the mind and the senses, the breathing, and then it is possible to meditate and properly be linked with the Supreme Lord. And even the jnanis, those who are cultivating transcendental knowledge, so they are also controlling their senses, because it is mentioned, or it is well known, and that without controlling the senses and the mind, it is not possible to advance. So Prabhupada is explained here, so that if one is not able to control, then these enemies, they can kill the soul to such an extent that there is no possibility of liberation from this material entanglement. So it must be done, or at least one has to try our best, and then one has to pray to the Lord for the mercy. We have to pray to the Vaishnavas for help. So right in the beginning, that is most essential, that one has to try to control the mind and the senses. Even when one is further advanced, even when one is highly advanced, still one has to strenuously try to control the mind and the senses. So even Raghunath Das Goswami, the Acharya for Prayojan Gyan, for the higher level of devotional service, so he has explained Mana Shiksha, instructions to the mind. Because ultimately the greatest enemy we have is the mind, the uncontrolled mind. And therefore it is said that actually these enemies, lust, anger, greed, they come from the mind, who is not controlled, who is not thinking about Krishna. So therefore we have to think about Krishna. We have to remember Krishna's lotus feet. Sama savai mana Krishna padara vindayor. Otherwise so much nonsense is coming from the mind. So here 3 are mentioned, but in other places 6 are mentioned. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mad, Moha, Matsarya. So again the 3 mentioned there, Kam, lust, Krodh, anger, Lobh, greed, and then Mad. So that is actually madness. So if one is not remembering Krishna and trying to control the mind, then actually the mind is almost becoming mad. And one is doing so many crazy things, or thinking so many crazy things, and then saying so many wrong things and doing wrong things. Mother, so like a mad person. So, and then moha. So if one is not remembering Krishna, then one is in illusion. If one is not serving Krishna, then one is in illusion. Then one is not able to understand his real position as a servant of Krishna, being completely different from the gross and subtle body. So that is known as moha. Also it is explained 4 kinds of anattas are there, unwanted things. So again there is mentioned asat trishna, being attracted to that which is not permanent, asat. So that is the material world, it is known as asat, it is not permanent. Asat ma sadgamaya. So we have to leave this asat, this non-permanent material world, this temporary life, and go to the sat, to the eternal life, to the spiritual life, to the real life, to Krishna consciousness. So that has to be there, that has to be done. And asat trishna, someone has to be free from this trishna, this thirst for that which is not permanent, the material things. of this material world, material enjoyment, and trying to be happy in this world. And then there is, even though we may know that it is not good to be attracted to this material world, but at the same time, because of hirdai dorbalyam, that is another narta, weakness of heart, although we know we should not eat too much or we should not do this or that, still we may do sometimes things which are related to this material world due to weakness of heart. So that is another unwanted thing. And then the third is known as the aparad, offenses against the Lord, against the Vaishnavas, the holy name, against the holy Dham. So that which is further bringing, actually leading us away from Krishna or from Srimati Radhi, Srimati Radharani, aparadha. So all kinds of offenses have to be avoided for the devotee who is practicing. And again, so that starts from controlling the mind and the senses. But in the conditioned state, one is almost bound to commit some offense. Therefore, we have to always be humble and beg forgiveness from the Lord, the Vaishnavas, and even those who are worshipping the deities every day after the puja. It is mandatory, one must do it, although one is not trying to make any offenses and trying to avoid and usually not doing, but still due to conditioned life, due to not always be situated, due to not being completely situated on the transcendental platform, one is almost bound to think something wrong, say something wrong, or do something wrong. Therefore, after every puja, every seva on the altar, worshipping the Supreme Lord, so one has to chant some mantras for obtaining forgiveness. Mantrainam, kriyainam, bhaktiinam, janadana, yat pujidam me deva paripurnam tarashtami. Oh my Lord, Janardhan, or Krishna, please accept whatever I have offered to you. Although mantrahinam, although I have not properly chanted the mantras. Kriyainam, I have done some, not everything perfectly. And bhaktihinam, and also I don't have any bhakti. But please accept whatever I've tried to do. And then aparada sashani kriyante harni shammaya dasam matva chamasamarusuranaha. So my dear Lord, so please kindly forgive me the thousands of offenses I'm committing day and night. So due to conditioned life, so this is happening, and we have to pray every day to the Lord to be free from offenses and so that we can progress, so that we not become, so that we not under the modes of material nature too much, that we can control lust, anger, greed, madness, and this moha illusion. And so the fourth kind of anatta also mentioned is there, Sarup Brahma. So the illusion about the Sarup of the Supreme Lord, Krishna Sarup, Satchidananda Sarup, not properly understanding the transcendental situation of the Supreme Lord, or even though we may have some knowledge, but no practical realization. So, and then about the process of devotional service, so then we may become advanced and come to the highest stage. And then not knowing our position clearly, although we may have some theoretical knowledge, but if we are still conditioned and the unwanted things are there, then we are not properly situated on the transcendental platform, Atma Tattva. And we cannot clearly see ourselves as being completely different from the gross and subtle body, and having a eternal relationship with Krishna. But one has to endeavor to become free from these all unwanted things and come to the platform of Nishtha, being fixed on the transcendental platform. And then one has to pray and try to continue, so he may get some transcendental experience and some taste for chanting the holy names, for serving the deities, for serving the Vaishnavas, for hearing or speaking Krishna Katha. And then we can advance more and more, and then comes the platform of Asakti, when we become totally attracted to Krishna. And then we become detached from this Bhautika Sakti, from this material attachment. So it is a gradual process, and then only after that one can come to the platform of bhav, of transcendental emotions coming from the heart, from the soul, and then there is a proper loving exchange. So for the beginning stage, we have to strenuously try to control these lower modes and this lust, anger, greed, and this madness, this illusion, moha, and matsarya, the envy. The devotee should try to become, or the devotee is actually non-envious. But of course, again, in the conditioned state, so although we are devotees, but sometimes we may come under this, the influence of this enemies coming from the mind, and then these are there, lust, greed, and envy. So if one is under the modes of material nature, then it is there. But the more we are free, the more we are transcendently situated, so then they will not be present. But if one is, for example, lusty, then he will be envious also. One who is envious is also lusty. So they are all actually coming from the mind, from the material platform. So we have to try to be transcendently situated. And strenuously we have to try to remember that we are the servant of Krishna. We have to practice so that we can realize. Jivera sopoi Krishnera nityadas. We are the eternal sons of Krishna. So we have to be situated on that platform that I am the eternal son of Krishna. And with that feeling, with that understanding, with that mood, with that remembrance, we should serve Krishna. We should chant the holy name. So always remembering I am the eternal servant of Krishna, completely different from this gross and material body. So it is a constant endeavor, and especially controlling the mind, so that is not easy. And when the mind is not controlled, then all these difficulties are coming. Therefore Krishna has also explained in the 6th chapter that for one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, and he will have attained tranquility and is liberated. If one can control the mind, he is actually liberated. But it takes time, and the liberation. So of course, if we take up devotional service, we chant the holy names, we take initiation from the spiritual master, then already we are considered liberated. But truly liberated we are when we are able to control especially the mind and the senses, and then when there is practical realization of our swarup, of our spiritual nature as the eternal servant of Krishna. And further on, even our relationship with Krishna and the 5 rasas of Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya ras. So that is real liberation. Atma Sakshatkar, the practical, not only theoretical but practical realization of being completely different from the gross and subtle material body, and then realizing our relationship with Krishna. And then, of course, that goes hand in hand. If we realize Krishna's Swarup, then we can also realize our Swarup. If we realize our Swarup, then we can realize Krishna's Swarup. Practically, then we can see Krishna is Satchidananda Swarup. Tribang Lalit Shama Sundar is beautiful form, Ganashyam, like a dark black blue rain cloud, very beautiful, transcendental, and his form is bent in 3 places. Murlidhar, always holding the flute. Sikhi Pichan, he has a peacock feather in his crown, or in his turban, or in the hair. Sometimes he has simply the hair, and then he has a top knot, and the pearl is around there, the hair on the top knot, made with the hair, and then he simply puts a peacock feather there. So, and he has very beautiful hair, beautiful black hair is there with locks, and then And so when we see this beautiful form of Krishna, and when Krishna is actually revealing himself, so then we can see ourselves also. So, but it takes time. But that is the actual realization, self-realization. When we can see Krishna and we can see ourselves. But again, it is a gradual process, and it takes time. So, but the more pure we are, the more we are free from the three modes of material nature and attachment to this material world, the more we become attached to Krishna, and then we can see Krishna. And then Krishna becomes more and more clear in our consciousness. And then ultimately he will reveal himself, and he will be there in his Satchidananda Swarup, in our consciousness. And that is the perfection of life. So those persons, as explained in the second verse, so Etayara Vimukta Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, so those who are Vimukta, those who are liberated, Tamodavasti Bir Naraha, so they have escaped these three gates, so which are leading to hell. So Tamo, they are actually from the mode of ignorance. And then Accharatyatmana Shreyas, Accharan, performing. So Shreyas, that means here it is mentioned as benediction. So there are two things, Shreyas and Preyas. So Shreyas, these are for all the ultimate good of the living entity, of the Atma, of the self. So that these are spiritual activities, like the Mukhya Anga, the main devotional activities, like hearing and chanting about Krishna. And serving Krishna, serving the Vaishnavas, hearing the Bhagavatam. So these are actually the prescribed activities which the devotees have to perform. So that is known as Shreyas. So these are for the ultimate benefit of the living entity. Whereas the other ones, Preyas, so these are activities also according to the injunction of the Vedic literatures, but these are also for those who still have some material desires and they want to live happy in this world, and but they may contact their activities, or they may dovetail their activities in Krishna consciousness to some extent, but at the same time they are attached to the fruits of their result and they like to enjoy also. So that is not for the actual benefit of the Atma. So that is known as Preyas. Therefore it is mentioned here that we perform the Shreyas, so which are beneficial for the soul, and by which Tato Yati Param Gatim, by which Yati Param Gatim, one can go. Yati means one can go. He will go to Param Gatim, to the supreme destination. So, and of course the supreme destination is the spiritual world. That is for us especially Golok Vrindavan. We want to go to Golok Vrindavan. So for that we have to serve Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Goloknath, Yashodanandan, Cham Sundar, Gopinath, who is residing in Golok Vrindavan in the highest realm. Because some persons, they may want to go to Vaikuntha or to Ayodhya in the spiritual realm, or Dwarka. So that is also, of course, the highest destination. Any planet in Vaikuntha, that is known as the liberated position. But amongst all these places, the highest position is actually Golok. That is explained in the scriptures, that there are unlimited planets in the spiritual world also, but the highest planet, that is known as Krishna Loka, where Krishna is residing. And that place is divided in 4 parts: Dwarka, Mathura, and Golok or Braj Vrindavan. And then the 4th place, that is known as Shvetadvip or Navadvip. So Krishna Loka, the planet of Krishna. So Krishna is there as in Dwarka as Dwarkadish, in Mathura as Mathuresh, And then is in Braj as Shyam Sundar, Yashodanandan. And then Krishna is also present in Svetadvip, Navadvip. Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different from Radha and Krishna. He is Krishna but with the golden luster and mood, the bhav of Srimati Radharani. So that is the highest destination, and that is the Param Gatim actually, the ultimate and the highest place to be achieved. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Kali Yuga avatar, and he has come to establish the Yuga Dharma, which is the chanting of the holy names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So by chanting the holy names, so we can very quickly reach to the highest realm. So Krishna names are non different. Krishna names are non different. So that is the easiest way how to make advancement in this Kali Yuga, by chanting the holy names. And so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, so he's the Supreme Lord, but he came as a devotee to show us how to chant the holy names in which consciousness. So therefore it is explained that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the holy names, but then he gave the bhav also, and that is a Braj bhav. That is the transcendental mood of the inhabitants of Braj, the associates of Krishna, the gopis, Nanda Baba, Yashoda, the friends of Krishna, Sudam, Sridham, and then the servants of Krishna, Raktak, Patrak. So they all have love for Krishna. The highest degree of love is there in Braj. It is Madhurya Bhav. There is no sense of Aishwarya that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. No, Krishna is my most beloved. So that is the highest concept of God consciousness. In the beginning we have to understand that God is there, we are the servants of the Lord, of God. We are very infinitesimal and God is great. And then we respect Him and with own reverence, but then ultimately we go to a higher level. And that is the Madhurya Bhav, and that is the Bhav in Braj, where they completely forget, they don't know, they're not aware by the internal energy of the Lord Yoga Maya that Krishna is God. They think Krishna is my best friend, Krishna is my beloved, Krishna is my son. So that is also most pleasing to Krishna. And that is So Krishna is most pleased by the love of the Brijvasis, and he's relishing the most. And so then the devotees in Braj, their happiness, that is actually the Paramanand, the greatest happiness they are experiencing in Braj, which cannot be found anywhere else, not in Mathura, not in Dwarka, nor in any Vaikuntha planets. Only in Svetadvip, Navadvip, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is present with his eternal associates. So they are all remembering also the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So they also have this Braj Bhav. So Svetadvip, Navadvip is simultaneously one and different from Braj. So that is actually the highest destination, and it is the goal of the Gaudiya Vaishnava devotees in our sampradaya to achieve that goal. So we should try our best to make as much advancement as possible in this life. So by engaging in these devotional activities, starting from hearing and chanting about Krishna and his wonderful pastimes, especially in Braj and also in Mayapur, Navadvip. But then Prabhupada is also explaining that one point which is important, that we have to try to act according to the Vedic system of Varna Ashram, because it is not possible to immediately come to the spontaneous platform, Raganuga Bhakti, following the eternal associates of Krishna and Braj. So therefore we have to gradually elevate ourselves, and we have to first of all follow the instructions of the bona fide representative of the Lord, the spiritual master, and then we follow the rules and regulations also according to Varna and Ashram. We have to be in one Varna, either we have to act as a Brahmana or as a Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, but we don't identify with that, but we always remember that we are the eternal son of Krishna, and Gopi Bhattapara Kamala, Das, Dasana Das. And we are simply the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. But we have to be engaged in Brahmanical activities, or we have to do some business, we have to have some occupation and follow the rules and regulations of that occupation or the Vedic literatures. And then we must be in one ashram, either Brahmacharya ashram, Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram or Sannyasa ashram. So that is important. And then by being in one Varna or ashram and following the rules and regulations of that Varna and ashram, and then gradually, step by step, we can be properly situated on the transcendental platform, and then naturally the love for Krishna, the spontaneous love for Krishna will be manifested. But still, even at that point, of course, although it will manifest, but we have to be under the guidance of the advanced devotees, the pure devotees, the spiritual masters, so that we may make more and more and quick advancements, so that we can quickly reach the highest stage. So first we perform sadhana bhakti as sadhakas, we follow the rules and regulations, and then we may enter into the spontaneous platform raganuga bhakti, and then we can go further and go to the platform of bhav bhakti, where we can love Krishna from the transcendental platform, and then the emotions are actually coming from the soul, from the heart, nothing to do with the material consciousness, with the material mind or material intelligence. So we have to see that we can come to that platform. So it is a gradual process, and we have to be very patient, but always remain enthusiastic and fixed. And but we have to be very patient, because it will take some time, and due to our conditioned nature and due to the nature of this world, there are always difficulties. But we have to simply remain fixed, and then we can overcome all difficulties. And but most of the difficulties, of course, externally they may be there, but mainly the difficulty lies actually with us ourselves, because we are not able to be completely fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. We don't have nam ruchi or seva ruchi, no taste for chanting holy names, and then we are under the influence of our mind and material intelligence and the false ego, and then from that all the difficulties are coming. Like lust, anger, greed, and delusion, and madness, and envy. So, and because ultimately everything is positive. If we are positive and we try our best and try to be properly situated, everything is positive. And even difficulties which are coming, so that they can be then, of course, sometimes it takes some time to overcome the difficulties. Even like the Pandavas, they were pure devotees, Krishna was with them, but still they were put in exile for not only 1 week or 10 days or 2 weeks or 1 month, but for 13 years they were driven out of the kingdom, which actually belonged to them. They didn't even have a village to stay. They were not even given 5 villages. They had to simply wander from one village to another village. So for 13 years. So our difficulties which we may experience, so they are nothing in comparison to these pure devotees of the Lord. So these pastimes are there also just for us to get strength, so that we simply continue despite all difficulties. And so despite all difficulties, we have to continue to the best of our ability, and then we can advance more and more, and then ultimately we will achieve success in due course of time. And so for one who is strong in determination and is completely engaged in devotional activities, there is never any loss. And if you have the Trinarapi Sunichena, Dororapi Saishnuna, Manina, Madanina, Kirtaniya Sadahari. If you are humble, if you are tolerant, if you are respectful and always chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Then we are properly situated and we can overcome all difficulties and attain perfection in due course of time. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Yes?
Thank you very much. You always give us a very nice lecture about Param Gatim and what we can look forward to when we're successful. I found this particular second purport very interesting because Prabhupada didn't even mention the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in this. He was saying simply that one can follow the rules and regulations enjoined in the Vedic literatures by following the regulative principles of human life. One gradually raises himself to the platform of spiritual realization. If one is so fortunate by such practice to rise to the platform of Krishna consciousness, then success is guaranteed for him. And then at the bottom, Prabhupada describes, according to the Vedic system, there are instituted the 4 orders of life and the 4 statuses of life. So this is actually something that somebody besides you would start a lecture on Varnashram Dharma. As it says here, if a person is able to follow these different rules and regulations for the different castes of the different societies, he will automatically be raised to the highest platform of spiritual realization. Now that's a very interesting concept, because generally, Prabhupada's describing, we follow the sadhana, our sadhana, and you're chanting Hare Krishna. But here he's advising, follow your caste system.
Yes.
So it was a very, very, very interesting thing. The man who has escaped the 3 days of hell performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus attains a supreme destination. And before you get there,
yes,
there's so much work.
Yes. Of course, it is mentioned in Bhagavatam that in many places in the Vedic literatures, by following Varna Ashram, you are liberated. If Krishna is in the center, that is there, Haritoshanam. So we follow the Varna Ashram, but then it has to be there also for the satisfaction of Krishna. Krishna has to be in the center. And so, because if you simply follow Varna Ashram, but if Krishna is not in the center, then it is also explained as Shama eva hi kevalam. So it's actually of no use, or even Prabhupada has explained that it's known as Asurik Varnashram. If Krishna is not in the center, because there are many people, they will say we have to follow Varnashram, but they are not even worshipping Krishna. They will say I'm a Brahmana, and they may meditate on the personal Brahman, or they're just saying I'm a Brahmana, and they may do some demigod worship. But actually Krishna has to be in the center, in Varna Ashram. Then it is proper Varna Ashram. Then it is called as Daivi Varna Ashram, the transcendental system of Varna and Ashram, where Krishna is in the center. And that is, and then everyone is serving Krishna. So, of course, even in Golok Vrindavan, so there we have the Brahmanas are there, and they are giving blessings to Krishna. And the part is there, although Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but still. And then the Kshatriyas are there, Vaishyas are there, and the Shudras are there, and the Brahmachari, the Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasis may be there. But Krishna is in the center, and everybody is doing everything for Krishna. So that is actually the proper situation. If Krishna is in the center, then it is proper, and then we can attain perfection. So, so even in Golok Vrindavan, it is true they are not always chanting Hare Krishna, but they are taking care of the cows and they are simply doing service to Krishna. But at the same time, they are also sometimes chanting Hare Krishna. It is mentioned the gopis sometimes, when they are separated from Krishna, then they are chanting the Mahamantra. But otherwise, they are simply serving Krishna. And that is a perfection of life, simply to serve Krishna. So it is true, definitely, whatever Prabhupada is writing. If we follow one ashram, if Krishna is in the center, we serve Krishna in the temple, or we take care of Krishna, Krishna's cows in the Goshala, and then we give the milk to Krishna, we take care of the fields and give the fruits and the vegetables and the grains to Krishna. So we go to the temple, then that is a perfection, yes, of one ashram. But still in the Kali Yuga we have to chant Hare Krishna, even if you are, whatever situation we are in, because that is the Yuga Dharma given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we follow one ashram, but we have to chant Hare Krishna also. So that is there. And in Rai Ramananda Samvad, so Mahaprabhu was asking questions from Rai Ramananda Roy just for our benefit, and telling him, so you please explain about how we can become perfect in our spiritual life, and then he's explaining all these things also, and about one ashram. Yeah, and he's saying this is all external. Eko bhaya, age kao. This is all external, speak more. Only when it comes to Braj Bhakti, then he said, yes, this is right. This is very nice. But please speak some more. Then he's explaining Dasya Bhav, Sakya Bhav, Vatsalya Bhav, and then ultimately the Gopi Bhav, Madhurya Bhav, the love of the gopis. So like that, so Krishna is in the center, and in the Kali Yuga we have to chant Hare Krishna. So Mahaprabhu came to teach us that, and he told everyone that they should chant the holy names. So in whatever situation we are in, that is okay, but we have to chant Hare Krishna. And so Prabhupada mentioned that also. Of course here, in the purport, it is not mentioned about chanting Hare Krishna, but it is understood that we should chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I have two questions. First is, you were mentioning that the yogis situation on the transcendental platform, but sometimes they also fall into goodness or passion or ignorance. But if they're already situated on the transcendental platform, how they can fall into passion or ignorance? Especially ignorance.
Yes, that is there, because if one is not completely pure, then so it is a gradual process to become completely pure. So one may be a sadhaka practicing, and he may come to the transcendental platform, but still not completely free from the three modes of material nature. And then he may, therefore it is explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita about the yogi. So the yogi is properly situated. But then sometimes he's still under the mode of goodness, and sometimes passion, and sometimes ignorance, because the three modes of material nature are very strong. And sometimes the mode of goodness is present, sometimes mode of passion, sometimes mode of ignorance. Even for the sadhaka, even for yogi, who is doing Ashtanga yoga, even for the bhakta, who is doing bhakti. And we know we are the eternal sons of Krishna. We chanting like Krishna, we know we are not this body. We know we have to simply serve Krishna. And we should not eat too much, we should not sleep too much. We should not become angry, we should not become lusty and greedy. So we know all these things. And we can see also practically ourselves and in others also many times. So devotees become unnecessarily angry, so which is the mode of passion, and then sometimes become greedy. In pujaris many times they take too much Mahaprasad. which is not necessary. They see the Mahaprasad, they forget I am the eternal servant of Krishna. Although before going on the altar, they have to chant this mantra for purification. Buddha Shuddhi, I am by nature the eternal servant of Krishna. But by misfortune, due to being human cultural stigma, being identifying with this material body, gross and subtle body, but by some unimaginable good fortune of being, I know that I'm an infused as a spiritual being completely apart from the gross and subtle body. And now by the mercy of my spiritual master, I have obtained good fortune being able to serve his lotus feet as well as the lotus feet of Gaurita, Krishna, Radhisham. So they have to chant, say this in their language, so they may understand practically that, because we know theoretically, but by saying that, it is really reinforced that I am not this body, I am the servant of Krishna. And then, by chanting more mantras, so that we may be fixed, then you can worship the deities, and Krishna is there, Satchidananda Swarup. And one should be on the transcendental platform when you are worshipping the Lord. But still then you see, then they are doing the seva, they are doing puja, doing the artik, and then the bhoga offering is there, special festival days, and then 100 preparations, 200 preparations are there. And then they know, even we tell, there's a rule, nobody should take anything. Everything should go in the office and we give to all the devotees. But then the devotees, they see Mahaprasad, cookies, rasgullas, nice sabji rice, and they forget the good instructions or the rules, and that, yes, I should control my mind and my senses, and then, and that should be for everyone, and then they are taking so much Mahaprasad. And then you may tell them, please Prabhu, don't take. And then they become angry, and they may fight on the altar also.
I don't know where
yes, really, yes.
I
so
saw,
that is
there was a letter about 30 years ago. I was in Africa at the time. But there was a letter that Prabhupada had a secretary to circulate.
Yes.
That Mahaprasad should only be tasted by the head pujari to make sure that the standard is okay.
Yeah.
But the pujari should not be making a meal out of the Mahaprasad.
Yes, yes. Actually, in many places it was there that the pujari who was doing the seva, he is not allowed to take the maha. I was in New York, that was a rule. And I was doing most of the offerings throughout the day, except the Rajbhog, because there were no pujaris, because it's not easy. And then, you know, and I was not attached to the maha, I was just doing the seva. But the cooks, they were very merciful, and they could see that I was dedicated, so they were keeping Mahaprasad and giving me, because they were allowed to take the cooks. So, you know, if we have the proper mood, then we will get everything, whatever we need, and we'll be satisfied. So, but the point is that even if one is a Brahmana, he's supposed to be advanced, the pujari. And then still, he's there on the altar, he's with the Lord, and he's chanting Hare Krishna, reading the scriptures, engaged in Brahminical activities of Sattva Gun. But still then, he becomes a little greedy for the Mahaprasad, and then sometimes fighting. And yeah, so, which should not be done, but it is happening, practical experience here, and it's happening very often. So throughout the year, many times, that pujaris are, you know, quarreling, sometimes less, sometimes more, and speaking loudly, and so the modes of nature are very strong. So, mode of passion, ignorance is not easy.
One time I was sitting, you had an ISKCON for the
pujaris,
and I was sitting there because I wanted to bring up a point.
Yes.
And beside me, there were two brahmacharis, and they had this huge cake. They were cutting it up, and they were, you know, loving it and looking at it. And then when it came time to distribute it, I couldn't take it because they'd already enjoyed it so much. I didn't feel to take it.
Yeah. So yeah, so the modes of material nature are very strong. So even for those who are practicing, who have knowledge, but still the modes of nature are there. And especially when we are hearing about Krishna, or when we're speaking about Krishna, then we are properly situated. And there's no problem actually. Like Prabhupada is explained, there's one verse in the Bhagavatam which is explained when one is hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, then all difficulties are removed, are vanquished. There are no difficulties at all. But as soon as the Srimad Bhagavatam is over, then the mind is back and difficulties are coming back. Or sometimes there's a nice kirtan and we are ecstatic. Kirtan is over, we're going out of the temple and the mind is back and the difficulties are back. So it is like that. But we try our best. So on the other question?
Other question is, you just mentioned in Golok Vrindavan there are also Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and maybe there are also Brahmachari, Grihasthas, Vanaprasthas and Sannyasis. So it means in Golok Vrindavan also there is Varnashram system.
Yeah, transcendental, and Krishna is there in the center,
Okay, so but what is the mood of sannyasis there? Like sannyasis and Vanaprasthas, they're supposed to be Kavira?
Yeah, that is just the...
In Golok Vrindavan there are 5 rasas.
Yes.
So sannyasi is supposed to be Vira, like they have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, even Purnamasi, she's like a yogini, sannyasini. She's completely renounced. She's living in a hut. And she's accepted as practically as the guru also for the Brijbasis. But it is known that she's living like an ascetic. She has a small hut and she's not mixing with all the other Brijbasis there, and she's from a Brahmana family. She's known as a Brahmani. And her grandson, Madhumangal, is the best of the Brahmanas and is a very good friend of Krishna, but he's a Brahmana. So the Brahmanas are there, and so those who are renounced. I mean, there's the Guru Jana there also, Baguri Muni and Chandilya Muni. So, but there may be less. Mostly there are Grihasthas there. But even so, as Purnamasi, she's living alone there. Her husband was not there. She was alone. As a yogini, sannyasini practically, like that. And so some may be there, but less. Mostly they are Grihasthas. Yeah, mostly. In Golok. Even in Gaur-Lila, mostly they are Grihasthas. Almost everyone, but not everyone. Like Gadadhar Pandit is known as not being married. So they may be there, and of course in this world there's a brahmachari, then there's a grihastha, then vanaprastha and sannyasi, there's a graduation. But in the spiritual world it is different. If, for example, so we may see that Nanda Baba is elder. So it is just how Krishna arranged. He has a wide beard, Nanda Baba. He's older. And Krishna is small, right? And some are older, some are younger. It is just, that is the eternal form which Krishna just manifested for the different personalities. And some are Brahmanas, some are Kshatriyas, some are Vaishyas, and some are Shudras. So like that. So everything is there, but mostly the householders in Golok. And mostly in Golok there are, of course, Vaishyas there, but there are some Shudras and some Kshatriyas and like that. Shudras, the workers who are working, for example, in Krishna's house, they're there. And they're simply doing some menial service. They're doing menial service, like the barber. There's a barber there. So barber is a Shudra class, cutting Krishna's hair. Or the dhobi washing Krishna's clothes. They did the full Shudra community. So, but they go inside the house, they do whatever has to be done. They cut Krishna's hair when there's a need sometimes. And but they are not, although Krishna may sometimes lovingly embrace out of his kindness, but still usually they are a little bit distant because they are from the lower caste. Still it is there, and the Brahmanas are from higher caste and they are respected. And they give blessings, like Madhumangal is also giving blessings to all the other Gopas. Like that. So it is there. It is the Leela. Even the sun and the moon are there. But there is no need of sun and moon. But they are there and they are serving. And the clouds are there. And the 6 seasons are there. And they are all serving. And they are permanent there. Ever existing. And Krishna can, every day he can go from one season to another season. He goes to the summer season and he feels hot, and he goes to the rainy season, There's a winter season, there's even snowfall there in Golok in the winter, but it's not as cold as in Switzerland when it is snowing. And it's not so hot as here now in India. In the summer, it is hot there also in Golok, but it is pleasant. So, but in the material world, then it becomes more intense. Even when Krishna comes here, his pastimes are more intense when he's here. Like that. All right? Anything else?